Welcome to Season with Salt. This is episode 9. This week, I have a guest in the person of Anthony Dunn. He is a rising junior at the Sacramento State University and one of my mentees. And he has come to talk about the experience of dating in your 20s. And I think you'll find this interesting. So stay tuned and enjoy. What's up? Okay, so this segment, I have my little friend, he's not my little friend because he's big, Anthony here, and Anthony is 20 years old, and we're just sitting here talking, and the funny thing is last week I talked about dating in your 30s, and we were actually talking about dating in your 20s. Now, of course, he's not going to say anything to incriminate himself because he's going to share this podcast once it's live with his friends. But what do you think makes it difficult to date in your 20s, Anthony?
I would say dating in your 20s can be difficult due to the fact that you don't know who you truly are at the age of 20.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to allow yourself to love someone or attempt to love someone when you don't truly know and love yourself.
Right.
And that could be very difficult when it comes to the dating aspect. Also, being young and naive and tempted always, it's hard to remain, I would say, I'm not going to say it's hard to remain faithful, but at this age with so much temptation, not many people are going to. That's what I would say would be the difference.
Do you think that it's still so I think women tend to have a bad stigma around being sexually promiscuous, but I don't think that anybody really holds men accountable for being promiscuous. How's your generation navigating that? Is it because people are more free sexually, are you guys dropping the H word? Does the H word make somebody more or less attractive? How's your generation handling that?
I would say currently our generation, there's a clear double standard when it comes to having multiple partners or basically dating by definition. What I mean by dating by definition is dating as in I'm going out on dates with this person to get to know them better. People sometimes mix that up and make it seem as if the person that they're dating is in a relationship with them. And if you go and date somebody else or go on a date with someone else, that is then cheating. Mm-hmm. And when it comes going back to the double standard, I would say that our generation is handling it horribly. We constantly get on girls' heads, get on women's head, I would say. You shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't dress a certain way because you'll cause this much attention, when honestly it's usually the men. If the men weren't so, I don't know how to say it, if the men weren't being so much of a man, it would be easier for a woman to live. I feel like we get in the way of a woman doing her thing.
Okay.
I would say,
how so?
Women. Okay, a woman gets up in the morning and she goes. She gets dressed. She thinks she looks great. Goes outside, starts the car up, gets to work, and her boss says, "Oh, your dress is too revealing, or this is too bad." Why is it that it's bad? Is it because you feel attracted or you feel aroused when you look at her? Because that may not be how everybody else is feeling. She feels that she looks great and she feels that she's in total love with her body and she's working it. Why is it that my opinion should be, or the boss's opinion be, the one that determines whether this woman should be dressing the way she is? And that's one example. There's many other. I would say the way females interact with each other men mess up a lot of female relationships, I would say, when it comes to love and relationships and dating. We tend to mess that up for them a lot. And it's not saying that women are, these perfect almighty beings, but I mean, they have the potential to be, but them being them, so to say, would be, I don't know how to explain that.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying is that men have a lot of the way that women present themselves, in your opinion, has to do with men's control or lack of control of their own bodies.
Yes.
So I hear you saying that, and I can agree with that. Given the example that you provided, but you also said that men have impact on relationships that women have. If a woman is owning her sexuality in her 20s, and is not subservient or subjected to any of these sort of male-dominated systems or definitions of sexuality, is she the H word? Or is the problem that no matter how a woman sees herself, men still get to define her based on what we believe? Because they say that you can't make a HOE a housewife, but there are plenty of HOEs that become house husbands.
Got it.
Right? And so essentially we all have a past or experience. I guess I'm just trying to get to what role do men have in doing the opposite of what you're saying, unframing or uncategorizing women's sexuality and their choices so that they can be who they are? Or is that our job? Should we be trying to manage or release people to be their sexual self?
I would say, due to the innate hierarchy as far as socially, when it comes to men, we are over women socially. It's not how it is. I mean, it is how it is. It's not how it should be. But due to the way people have been raised, people have been taught, they see these relationships and they see the men being the more how would I say, more put together, the more how would I put it? Basically, the man would be the leader or the king, and then the wife would be basically the housewife. And that sort of mindset hasn't changed as far as today and being 20 and seeing people react with each other or interact with each other. I try my best to not judge a female on what she's wearing or how many people she slept with, because honestly, it doesn't matter, because I'm out here doing the same thing that this person's doing. Why is it that my words have more power over her whole persona versus her saying something about me? You know what I'm saying? We're doing for an example, me and her doing the exact same thing. I'm out here living my best life. She's out there living her best life. If I call her a hoe, all my partners and people around me, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, good, we're not messing with her." Or some might take advantage. "Oh yeah, I'm for sure gonna mess with her because it's easy." If a woman was to call a man a hoe or call me a hoe, it would be you would kind of just shrug it off because it's not as bad of an insult coming from a woman as it is coming from a man, due to that hierarchy that's been instilled with with everything that we have today.
I think you're using the word hierarchy, but you probably mean just the social structure of the world, the way that people have been indoctrinated to believe that men have more sexual control over relationships and the interaction with people. But I guess and I could be wrong. You could mean what you said you meant, which I think you do. I'm just reframing it. But let me ask you this, though. So we know a lot about the objectification of women in popular culture, whether it be rappers or people. But what I see, I was going to ask you if you see this, and you can tell me if you agree or not, or you can and why you think it is. Mm-hmm. Have men been sexually objectified? Like, and I'm going to preface this by saying that, like, if you look up hashtag gray sweatpants, like on Instagram or any social media platform, like, is that the same as like a man like objectifying a woman based on the proportions of her body? Is it the same? And I know that maybe men culturally people might argue that men are more likely to objectify women, but are men objectified? Like, is it possible that a woman is looking at you and talking to her friends about you in a way that has nothing to do with like your brain? It's just your body. Like, are you a gray sweatpant wearer to somebody and just that? What's the potential that men are being objectified as much as women are?
I would say that men are just as objectified mm-hmm. as women are, mm-hmm. but due to the men being men, going back to what I was saying, it means more. Mm-hmm. When, like, I don't know how to explain it. Basically, when it comes to the objectification of the male and the female, yes, it's the same, but it's just different. I don't really know how to explain.
Well, I think historically, women have been objectified like in a lot of different ways, in very inappropriate ways over time, in ways that men have not. Now, men, if you look at slavery, like women's bodies were objectified in different ways than men's bodies were objectified. I mean, historians will have to look back to say, like, who was more objectified than anybody else. But I think that it is the norm. Like, I mean, if you ask a group of men and women to name a female porn star or stripper versus a male porn star or stripper, like, most people, regardless of their gender, would be able to talk to you about a female stripper or a female rapper that objectifies herself in certain ways. Men are just not objectified in that way. Like, they are, but it's not like, you know, I mean, you could be, Fabio 30 years ago was on TV with his shirt off. Whereas, like, even though we objectify women, it may not have been appropriate for a woman to be on TV with a bra or a sports bra on. So, but culturally, I think that we our mindset around what it means to objectify a woman is a lot different than what it means to objectify a man. Like, and like the gray sweatpants is a good example, because it's like, some will argue, well, he knows what he's doing. But if you say that about a woman, then it's like, no, she just likes that dress. Like, right?
The sundress.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the man wearing the gray sweatpants and then a woman in the sundress. If I was to say she knows what she's doing, it would be the same with me wearing gray sweatpants. But at the same time, I would just be wearing gray sweatpants to wear gray sweatpants, and she may be just wearing the sundress to wear a sundress because she knows she look good in that sundress.
Yeah. So, okay. So we objectify each other. Objectification can be something that people like bring onto themselves or that they ask for, because most of us know what we're doing. I think when I was coming up, like, you went and got a pair of Jordans and you made the effort to look nice. like based on like trying to lure the opposite sex or whatever kind of sex you were interested in.
Got it.
And over time, like especially when folks fall in love, if in their relationship they don't value physical appearance, and they kind of just fall off, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in your if you what kind of guy in his or what kind of woman, what kind of man in their 20s is looking for a serious partner? Who's yeah, I want a girl. Do you want a girlfriend?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I do want a girlfriend.
Okay, so and that means constant, everyday commitment. Is it too early for you to assert that you want a girlfriend because you want to get married?
At this age, 20, I would say it's a good time to start a relationship that builds toward marriage, not right away, but years after. It's we've been together for 5 years. Why not? I'm 25. Mm-hmm. 25 is a good age to get married. And versus starting at 25, mm-hmm. You'd be 30 by the time you get married. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I would rather get married a little earlier and, enjoy the rest of my life with my wife.
Right. Do you think that that it is, and I know you don't have anything to compare this to, but just based on what you've heard or talked to other people, do you think that there is a stronger pressure to be married early than there was before, or do you feel like people are in general being married later on in life, and so there is no pressure?
Oh, there was a big switch. I would say back in the past, everyone was getting married right after high school. You found your high school sweetheart, you got married. Today, people are waiting. And I mean, waiting to where it's we're just getting married because we're the last two people, and I'm not messing with nobody else. You're not messing with nobody else. Let's get married. Right. It's the dynamic has changed. Our viewpoints on relationships have changed to where it's kind of demeans the relationship meaning, and it takes away from the core beauty of a relationship. And most people don't see that. Most people my age, 20 years old, no, they don't care about it. Mm-hmm. 25, they're still not caring about it. Mm-hmm. You get around to 30, you kind of thinking, okay, I might want to go ahead and do this, but let me wait a little bit.
Is this gender-based thinking though? Do you think that if I polled 10 women and 10 men, they would all have the same response? I'm waiting, 25 would be a good age, or do you think that is subjective?
I would say it's subjective, but because when it comes to a female, you have to think, okay, we have all these viewpoints and all these standards that a female, to be an adequate female, has to meet. Mm-hmm. And if she says the wrong answer, she's going to then look like a female that's, a hoe. Mm-hmm. And so she's going to give you the answer that she would think socially would be socially appropriate. She's not going to tell you that she's not trying to get married until later. I don't believe.
Do you have standards?
Yeah, I would say.
Okay. So what's a deal breaker?
A deal breaker?
For a girlfriend. What's a deal breaker in your 20s?
Deal breaker in my 20s for a girlfriend. Someone you just can't communicate with.
How do you know that? Are you talking about after, if you try to date them and you can't communicate with them, that's a deal breaker?
Well, the way I would do it is you would date, as in going on dates. You wouldn't be in a relationship, and then you go into exclusively dating where it's just us doing our thing. Mm-hmm. Then you go into a relationship. By then, I should know if I'm ready to be in a relationship with this person. Moving into the exclusively dating portion of the time, but yeah. That's a big deal breaker, communication.
It seems like millennials, from what I hear and have studied, it seems like millennials do not like titles and categories in a way that perhaps maybe other generations were willing to accept them. And how does that, it seems like that manifests in relationships. I know when I was coming up, you were talking to somebody, and that meant, and I think it might be the same today. I might be in tune with what's happening amongst younger people. Mm-hmm. But if you're talking to somebody that's not dating, but I think talking and dating might be the same thing. You're not exclusive.
No.
But you're on the road towards exclusion, but you might not be.
Got it. Yeah.
Right? Like
it's always a possibility to mess up.
It's a possibility, but the thing about talking is that one or more of the individuals in the relationship have determined that they're not ready for a commitment. Right? Like, is there anybody that's talking where both folks are ready for a commitment?
I believe people who do talk, some may have that mindset that they want to, start the dating, then exclusively dating, then a relationship. But a lot of people today, I would say from a man's standpoint, they just want to have sex with this person and, keep it pushing.
So if, like, when you're, like, so you're out and about.
Yeah.
And you are not looking to have any labels, like, but you're looking to have sex, like, but you could be open to a label. Like, give me the from your generation's perspective, what happens? Like, what's what happens first, second, third, fourth, and fifth?
Okay, first, you got that mindset, man. Like, I'm ready. Like, I'm just trying to do my thing and keep it pushing. So, one, you find a girl. She's attractive. Okay, I would like to go ahead and pursue. You pursue. You give all your energy. I mean, I feel like when people want to when the man wants to catch a female's interest, they put on, I would say a show, but I would say they give off all of their energy. And then as soon as they get what they want, they kind of just, it dies down because they've gotten what they want.
Okay, sorry to keep interrupting you. So, in general, I don't know if I'm saying this from experience or not. Probably not, for the purposes of this podcast. Praise God. But it's so you get to that point, you have identified someone that you find attractive, and the end of the process is, I work to look a certain way, so that I can attract the people that I find attractive.
Yes.
Once I'm attracted to them, my objective is to have sex. I'm done having sex with them.
Got it.
And, like, I'm sitting at home, and it's the next day. Like, whose move is it next?
I would say it's in the male's hands.
Okay.
When it comes to who chooses what they want to do after that. But it can also be in the female's hands, because if it wasn't what she had expected it to be or wanted it to be, she's going to dip too. Because it's the same. We have the same mindset at the end of the day. If I'm just doing this, you're going to attract what you want in a way.
Okay.
And if I'm just trying to, have sex and not have relations, and I'll attract the females that want to have sex and not relations. Okay. So that's what will be around me all the time. So
that's about reputation, though, right? Like, if you have you went to homecoming this weekend.
Yes.
If you were at homecoming, like, the likelihood that somebody was there, like, waiting to find a boyfriend is low, or a girlfriend is low. Like, people were there with the intent of just being social and hanging out and talking, right? I mean,
a lot of the males, like a lot of the guys, they don't go into a tailgate. They just want to, their mindset basically is, I've heard this. I'm going to be the flyest one there. I'm going to pull the baddest, female. And then that's going to be the night. And after that, I'm going to stop talking to her.
So you're saying that the end goal in general for people who are not looking to be labeled or in a formal relationship is usually like a short-term goal.
Yes, very short.
And I guess my question is, how does that short-term goal become a long-term goal? Like, how do you, like, you said you wanted a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, but you are wired in such a way that you're 20 and you want to do what you believe 20-year-olds are doing. Like, how does that one day or one night or one activity, like, is it your responsibility to extend that beyond that one experience?
Mm-hmm.
Or because it seems like most of the times, even though you said the man is control, it seems like sometimes the women like kind of steer the ship, right? Like they are, I mean, because ultimately they know what they want and you know what you want, and the wants like meet somewhere. And usually the wants come in the form of a label, some type of like relationship-based tradition. Like, we're gonna go to the movies and hold hands. We're gonna go on a double date. We're gonna have like game night with other couples, like that kind of thing. But if you, it seems like that would be something difficult to get to if both parties aren't interested in something beyond a short-term relationship. And so, what's your advice for other? Okay, you have a sister, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. A guy with your mindset is interested in your sister. Like, what would you tell him?
What would I tell him?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, you're not talking to her.
No, but you don't control who she talks to.
I would say to that person, you're gonna respect her at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Because
respect, as in whatever you guys do, stays between you guys. Don't go do anything with her and then go back and be like, yeah, it was this, and this. Let it be between you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't disrespect her, as in don't talk to her any type of way. Treat her with, as if you would treat your mom.
Mm-hmm.
For most people. And then I would understand where my sister is, like what you want to do. Right. Is that what you're doing? Okay, I'm gonna let you do that, but I'm gonna let you do it the safe way. Be smart, be safe about everything and protect yourself at the end of the day.
So and I think that you gotta go. So let me just close up this way. What's the consciousness around safety with this sort of millennial mindset? Like, are you carrying condoms? Are you having safe sex? Is that a part of the discussion? Like, are people who mentor you and who talk to you, like, having those conversations with you? Like, how does that work for this generation?
Yeah, I would say we all feel, or we all know that we're all supposed to be having, we're all supposed to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't really protect yourself mentally, I would say. Physically, you can protect yourself, but mentally, none of that is up to you. It's up to what happens when those two people meet. That's why there's always a possibility for a relationship. If you have that mindset, I don't want no girlfriend. I'm going to just go out there and mess with a bunch of girls. One of those girls you're going to click with and you're going to really like. And it's just going to happen. You have no control over it. Who cares if you say you don't like this girl? You know you do. Like, you'll feel it. And so then it'll click. That's when you'll send that text, the what are we text. And you end up being in a whole relationship you didn't expect to be in one. That's usually how relationships happen today.
But my question is around like safety. So I get your point about not being able to protect yourself mentally. I think that might be debatable too, because you do make choices every day about what you will be exposed to. And I think you actually said that to me before we started recording. But like, who owns, because we're talking about like the power that men have and the power that women have.
Got it.
Like, who owns like safety? Like, who owns, like, whether it be, so she's got to, and so we talked about, so mental safety, if there is ownership, is personal, right? Like, protect yourself from the things that you don't want to get into, like, so that you're not a victim. And sexually, is it your opinion that like men and women should carry condoms, or is it because women are generally the driver of that? What's your...
Yeah, women. I would say women are the driver. Because at the end of the day, if she says no, it's a no.
Right.
So if a person wants to mess with the female and goes, "Hey, you're not protected. Let's not do this." You're not doing it. So it's up to, I would say, her to like be smart and be like, you know what? Let's not do this. Because the male, like the guy, he's not going. I'm not gonna say he's not going to stop, but if you let him, he gonna do it. Unless it depends on how he was raised and how what his values are. But like I said, you attract the people you want. So it's up to really however you feel at the moment. But you have the mindset of being protected.
And I think, so this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and there's a large percentage of people who have been exposed to intimate partner violence, and that is not like an older people thing. Like, there are a lot of young people who have been exposed to that. Like, what is your advisement to people in those situations who like are not sure? Like, if you're not sure, what should you do? Like, 'cause we know what no means, but like, like, how can you protect yourself from that uncertainty?
No, explain the uncertainty.
Like, if you're in a situation that you don't think it's consensual or going well, like, what are the actions that you need to take? Well, let me put it like this: the fact that you have to think about it means that you need to think about it. Right, like, because you don't really control a lot of it, and you do need to be protecting yourself, But also, like, this is a conversation that I think that young people need to be having, like, in your peer groups, about like the seriousness of intimate violence, and like what that means. But I also want to say too that anybody who's 40 or 50, sometimes when people get real old, they try to brand new, but most of us who are in our 40s and 50s, like, we know the impact of our sexual decisions. The sexual decisions that we made in our 20s, like, we know the impact that they have had in our 40s and 50s.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that when I hear people talking about, like, sexual freedom and being able to, like, live out your freedom sexually and all that kind of stuff, like, I always want to caution people that, like, there is no decision that you can make in your 20s that will not affect your 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yeah, every decision.
Like, every decision. And I preface that by one time a group of friends, some of which we were all gathered around and we read, there was an article, we were debating about it, but there's this article that said that, like, anytime that intercourse takes place, like, the DNA of the gentleman who is involved with the woman sexually, like, there is a transfer of that DNA, whether they are impregnated or not. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking about, we were being, kind of facetious about what that meant, and about, like, the way that some people's kids look versus the way that the parents look and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's scientifically, it's a very interesting conversation, because, like, we were not made to, God made us to procreate, but the whole, I'm just gonna, like, do is have as much sex as I can because I'm 20, like, does have an impact on your body, your mental and physical. And I talk to a lot of people who are in their 30s who are extremely promiscuous in their 20s, and it wasn't that they didn't enjoy it, it was that they did not make the assessment about the impact that it would have on them mentally and spiritually.
Got it.
And I think that, like, that's what people need to know about, like, the decisions that they make. And it's not like, it's less about, like, isolated sexual experiences. It's really about, like, the mindset that a person has about or the way that they see themselves sexually. Because if you see yourself as, like, sexually promiscuous, or if you objectify yourself, like, and you do not own, like, the power and the beauty that God created you as, like, it's really difficult to shake that when you have given yourself to so many different people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's like, being able to balance that. And then the reality is that you talked about the mental impact. When you get married, like, there was a study done that said that most men women are interested in knowing about their man's sexual past, but men just do not want to know it, because they assess to that, like, I'm in a lifetime partnership with somebody who's shared their body with so many different people. Well, I think it's the same thing. It's like, God created you for whomever he created you for. Like, how many people do you want to run into in the grocery store? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, you wouldn't let just anybody borrow your car.
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't, like, if you grew up in a house with a lot of siblings, like, there's certain shoes you wouldn't let siblings wear, depending on how you honor them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think God wants us to honor our bodies in such a way that we do not look at our sexual experiences as isolated activity that don't have long-term impact on who we are. So, like, women sometimes internalize that, but men need to do that too. We need just because society has made you feel like you're supposed to, like, your manhood is defined by who you have sex with or how often you have sex with, does not mean that you are not held accountable for being a good steward of your body. And the ability to procreate and to be in a loving and intimate marriage is a gift from God that, like, nobody, and I mean this in the best possible way, no pun intended, but most people don't want something that's been beat up and dragged on through, and that's, right? And if you don't want that, don't be that. I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the thing. And I think one thing I have been thinking about a lot, because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, is how men can have these conversations in their peer groups so that, like, it's not, because we can't, like, the way that this generation works, y'all millennials ain't trying to listen to old people all the time. You know what I'm saying? But this is information that other generations we had access to because we regularly had somebody down our throat, like, don't do this, don't say this, don't go here, don't do that. And y'all are like, I wish they would. The best intentioned person can tell me not to do something, and I'm going to do it because they said it, because they my daddy and they don't own me.
Yeah.
But the reality is, how y'all gonna be holding each other? How are you holding each other accountable interpersonally, like peer to peer? Because that's what y'all need. Like, my generation didn't need that. We didn't need anybody to hold us accountable peer to peer, because we were running from that accountability. And y'all are running to the accountability to let the accountability know they don't tell you what to do. And so, I think just being able to have those conversations and to challenge, like, behavior internally that, like, objectifies, but not just objectifies women, but realizing that sometimes the objectification of women, no matter what they're putting off, is the objectification of men. Like, if you sleep with a hoe, you are a hoe. And so, I don't think a hoe is a cuss word. Anyway, have some closing remarks. Like,
for everybody listening, I would say be careful who you share your energy with and who you share yourself with. It could be very toxic to yourself if you allow someone who is not stable or not mentally or physically stable. It could in turn hurt you and become detrimental to your health mentally and physically. Make sure you know who you're truly dealing with before you allow them the fruits of your labor.
Hold the scriptures now. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Anthony, for joining me. Come back. If you guys have any questions or any comments, like, don't be afraid to let me know what you're thinking. Absolutely. I think this is a good conversation, and we will continue this dialogue. If you are listening to this podcast and you enjoy it, just remember that it is on iTunes, it is on Spotify, Podbean, all the major platforms. And I'm just asking you to subscribe, write a review, share it with other people so that we can bring some energy to this. And I just want to say that the reason why I wanted to name this podcast Season with Salt is because I'm really of the belief that Christians, according to Colossians 4 and 6, can talk about anything and bring life and positivity to conversations that people have stigmatized and have made negatively. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you soon, and let your conversation be seasoned with salt. Have a good day.